Welcome to Moments in History channel. Step into the world of ancient Mesopotamia, a land of sprawling cities, towering ziggurats, and legendary kings. Here, nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, rose an empire that would shape the course of human history: Babylon. For over 1,000 years, this powerhouse of culture, law, and innovation stood as a beacon of civilization, leaving behind a legacy that continues to fascinate and inspire us to this day. From the laws of Hammurabi to the legendary Hanging Gardens, Babylon was more than just a city. It was the heart of the ancient world. So how did a humble city-state grow to command such power? And what secrets still lie buried beneath the sands of modern-day Iraq? Join us as we journey back in time to uncover the story of the mighty Babylonian Empire. Our story begins around 1894 BCE, during what historians call the Old Babylonian period. At this time, Mesopotamia was a patchwork of competing city-states, each vying for dominance. But one city, Babylon, was about to change the game. Its rise to prominence was largely the work of one extraordinary ruler, Hammurabi. Ascending to the throne in 1792 BCE, Hammurabi was a brilliant strategist and a masterful diplomat. He spent the first decades of his reign consolidating power, forging strategic alliances, and patiently waiting for the right moment to strike. Then, one by one, he conquered his rivals, Larsa, Eshnunna, Mari, unifying the scattered lands of Mesopotamia under a single banner. For the first time, the region was united not just by force, but by a shared administration and culture centered in Babylon. But Hammurabi's greatest legacy wasn't won on the battlefield. It was carved in stone. I'm talking, of course, about the Code of Hammurabi, one of the oldest and most complete legal codes ever discovered. Imagine a towering black stone stele, nearly 7.5 feet tall, inscribed with 282 laws governing every aspect of Babylonian life. From commerce and property disputes to family law and criminal justice, the code aimed to establish order and ensure that, in Hammurabi's own words, the strong might not injure the weak. Its principle of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth is famous, but the code was far more nuanced. It set different penalties based on social status and provided a framework for a society built on justice and state authority. This was revolutionary. It established the idea that law was a public matter, accessible to all, and that the king was the ultimate guarantor of justice. Copies were placed in temples across the empire, a constant reminder of the king's power and his divine mandate to rule. Under Hammurabi and his successors, Babylon blossomed into a vibrant metropolis. It became a crucial hub for trade, with caravans carrying goods from as far as Anatolia and the Indus Valley. The city's religious life also flourished. At its heart stood the great temple dedicated to Marduk, the patron god of Babylon. As Babylon grew in political power, Marduk rose in the Mesopotamian pantheon, eventually becoming the king of the gods. The annual New Year's festival, or Akitu, was a grand 12-day celebration that reaffirmed the king's divine right to rule and celebrated Marduk's triumph over chaos. Science and scholarship also thrived. Babylonian priests were keen observers of the heavens. They developed sophisticated astronomical methods to track the movements of planets and stars, creating detailed celestial maps and the foundations of what we now call astrology. They invented a base 60 numeral system, which is the reason we still have 60 seconds in a minute and 360 degrees in a circle. Their contributions to mathematics, including early forms of algebra, were centuries ahead of their time. But empires, no matter how great, are not eternal. After Hammurabi's death, his empire began to fracture. A series of weaker kings struggled to maintain control, and Babylon faced increasing pressure from external threats, particularly the Kassites from the eastern mountains and the Hittites from Anatolia. The final blow came in 1595 BCE, the Hittite king Mursili. I led a daring raid deep into Mesopotamia, sacking the seemingly invincible city of Babylon. The raid was brief but devastating, bringing the Old Babylonian Empire to an abrupt and dramatic end. For the next several centuries, Babylon would be ruled by foreigners, primarily the Kassites, who adopted Babylonian culture and traditions but couldn't restore its former imperial glory. the city's influence waned, and the spotlight shifted to other powers, like the mighty Assyrian Empire to the north. For a time, it seemed Babylon's best days were behind it, but Babylon was not destined to fade into obscurity. After centuries of foreign rule and subservience to the Assyrians, the spirit of rebellion was stirring. In 626 BCE, a Chaldean leader named Nabopolassar seized the throne of Babylon and declared independence from the crumbling Assyrian Empire. This marked the dawn of a new glorious era, the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Nabopolassar was a skilled military commander. He forged a powerful alliance with the Medes, an Iranian people from the east, and together they launched a relentless assault on the Assyrian heartland. In 612 BCE, their combined forces captured and destroyed the great Assyrian capital of Nineveh, an event that sent shockwaves across the ancient world. The hated Assyrian yoke was finally broken, and Babylon was once again the master of Mesopotamia. Nabopolassar's son, Nebuchadnezzar II, would take his father's achievements to unimaginable heights. Reigning for 43 years, Nebuchadnezzar II was one of the most powerful and influential monarchs of the ancient world. He was a brilliant military strategist, expanding the empire to its greatest extent. He marched his armies across the Near East, conquering Syria, Phoenicia, and Judah. His most famous military campaign was the Siege of Jerusalem in 587 BCE, which ended with the destruction of Solomon's temple and the deportation of thousands of Jews to Babylon, the event known as the Babylonian captivity. This act cemented his reputation as a formidable conqueror, a figure who appears prominently in the Hebrew Bible. But Nebuchadnezzar II was more than just a warrior. He was a master builder. He embarked on an ambitious construction program that transformed Babylon into the most magnificent city of its age. He surrounded the city with a massive double wall, so wide that, according to the Greek historian Herodotus, a 4-horse chariot could turn on top. The main entrance was the breathtaking Ishtar Gate, a monumental structure covered in brilliant blue-glazed bricks and adorned with reliefs of dragons and bulls, symbols of the gods Marduk and Adad. The gate was part of the Grand Processional Way, a sacred road that led to the heart of the city, the Temple of Marduk. And then there were the legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Described by ancient writers as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the gardens were said to be an astonishing series of tiered terraces, lush with exotic trees and plants, rising like a green mountain in the middle of the city. Legend has it that Nebuchadnezzar built them for his Median wife, who missed the green hills of her homeland. While archaeologists have yet to find conclusive evidence of their existence, the story of the Hanging Gardens captures the sheer opulence and engineering genius of Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon. The glory of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, however, was short-lived. After Nebuchadnezzar's death, a series of weak and ineffective kings followed. Political instability plagued the court. The final Babylonian king, Nabonidus, was a peculiar figure. He was more interested in archaeology and the worship of the moon god Sin than in politics or the traditional patron god, Marduk. This alienated the powerful priesthood of Marduk and many of the city's elites. Meanwhile, a new power was rising in the east. The Persian Empire, led by the visionary Cyrus the Great. In 539 BCE, Cyrus marched on Babylon. The end came swiftly. According to historical accounts, the Persian army entered the city without a major battle. Nabonidus was captured, and the great Babylonian Empire fell. Cyrus presented himself not as a conqueror, but as a liberator chosen by Marduk to restore order. He famously allowed the exiled peoples, including the Jews, to return to their homelands and rebuild their temples, earning him a reputation for tolerance and wisdom. Although the Babylonian Empire was no more, its legacy was indelible. The Persians, and later the Greeks under Alexander the Great, who conquered Babylon in 331 BCE, held deep respect for its culture and scientific knowledge. Babylonian astronomy continued to be practiced and developed, profoundly influencing Greek and later Hellenistic science. The stories and myths of Mesopotamia, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, were preserved and passed down, shaping religious and literary traditions across the globe. The legal principles pioneered by Hammurabi laid the groundwork for future legal systems. The very name, Babylon, has echoed through the ages, a symbol of both worldly splendor and imperial hubris. Its towers may have crumbled to dust, but the innovations and ideas born in this ancient Mesopotamian city helped build the world we live in today. From our 60-second minute to the foundations of our legal codes, the ghost of Babylon is still with us. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the rise and fall of the Babylonian Empire. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to Moments in History channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next exploration into the fascinating stories of the past. Let us know in the comments which ancient civilization you'd like to see us cover next. Until then, keep exploring.